In 2015, the movie Everest came out. And in that movie, there's a character named Beck who loses his vision. That character is played by Josh Brolin. 3 years later, in 2018, Josh Brolin came back as Thanos, and he took Wanda's vision. Let's get into this episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to TV Time with Chris. The channel devoted specifically to TV shows and limited series. Now, hey, if you love TV shows and limited series, then make sure that you subscribe to this channel because you're going to get that content that you love and then some. Today, we're going to be talking about WandaVision, Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. Let me tell you what an episode this was. I know I touched upon it briefly in my last video, which was heavy on predictions on what I think is going to happen. This episode will be a little bit backwards. We're going to focus on the show itself, and we're also going to make a few predictions as well. So this show picks up the next day, I guess essentially November 1st, because it's immediately following the Halloween episode. The hex has been expanded. Vision is all right because Wanda saved him by expanding the hex. Darcy's now in the hex. And everyone that was on the outside tried to get away. Those that couldn't ended up becoming part of a circus. So, yeah, we're just gonna get into it. I mean, so much happened in this episode. There's, glitches all throughout this world. And Wanda doesn't know what's going on with that. And, we're all a little, what's really happening here? Because, there's been a few glitches here and there throughout. Sometimes it was people from the outside trying to reach those inside, like when Agent Wu was trying to contact Wanda through the radio. So Vision ends up teaming up with Darcy because, she was caught there, handcuffed to that car, and got sucked into the hex. And he remembers her. She doesn't remember him. That's just part of, the control of the hex. And he ends up freeing her mind. And she fills him in on everything. One thing I never understood about this show is how does everyone from the outside know all the details of what happened during the Avenger movies? They weren't there. Like, how does Agent Wu know that Wanda almost beat Thanos? And Monica knows that as well. Like, how do they know that? They weren't there. Who filled them in on all the little details? Who was watching that particular part of the fight and not doing a battle themselves that they were able to fill in the world? Darcy's filling Vision in on his history, that he's an Avenger, that Wanda killed him, Thanos brought him back, Thanos killed him, and he's essentially dead. So, while she's filling him in, they're trying to get back to Wanda, so to speak. And that's their part of the story. Again, there's glitches. Wanda doesn't know what's happening. She's kind of, I don't know if she's feeling regretful of what's been happening and what's going on. But she needs kind of time to herself. So, ironically enough, Agnes shows up and decides to take the boys and let Wanda kind of have the day. So, Monica and Wu are on their way to meet Monica's engineer. And they find out that Hayward is working on some secret project called Cataract, which is something that obstructs one's vision. So what is this Project Cataract? Is this to target Wanda or to regain vision? We don't know. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow. But they meet the people they needed to. They brought a rover for Monica to try to get through the hex. And Wanda strengthened the hex and also expanded it. So they're not able to get through. And Monica says, you know what? I could do it on my own. She runs through. And in so doing, she ends up gaining special abilities. Because again, as they've said, as Darcy told her, her cells have been rewritten on a molecular level. So going through a third time actually gives her abilities and powers. And this is when she becomes Photon, Spectrum, whatever it is you want to call her. She then goes to meet Wanda and explain to her what it is that Hayward's doing, that he ultimately is trying to bring Vision back as his own weapon. Again, SWORD is a sentient weapons organization. They would obviously want Vision as their weapon. So we're going to find out more about this Project Cataract, I'm sure, within the next or the last 2 episodes that they have. The episode then closes with Agnes coming and kind of taking Wanda from Monica to kind of stop a battle ensuing. And she brings her to her place. And once inside, Wanda's looking around. She sees the half-eaten peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. She sees the kids show. She says to Agnes, "Where are the twins?" And Agnes says, "Oh, they're probably just playing in the basement." So Wanda goes down into the basement and in there discovers some freaky items. And Agnes comes down and reveals herself to be Agatha Harkness, who is an immortal witch from Marvel. And she's been the one that's behind all the glitches and anything that Wanda can't explain in her hex is because of Agnes. And that's where the show ends. So it was a crazy episode, but I want to talk about some more predictions that I have. Some little details that I missed in my first prediction video. In that video, I talked about the Darkhold, the Book of Sins. And we see that down in Agatha's basement. And I talked about how this book was used in the Marvel storyline to create the first vampire. And I talked about how this book is, I believe, going to be tied into the Spider-Verse with Morbius. Because Morbius ends up becoming a vampire-like creature, so to speak. And one thing I forgot to mention was, if this book created the first vampire and Morbius is a vampire, this book is also going to play a part in the future Blade movies that Marvel is going to be doing. So Marvel's remaking Blade. And I believe that this book is going to play a part in that because it's used to create the first vampire, and Morbius is a vampire. Even though it is a Sony property, it is going to be part of the Sony Marvel cooperation, so to speak. So I forgot to mention that yesterday, and I thought about it and wanted to talk about it in this one. So yes, the Darkhold book will be in future movies and episodes and shows of the MCU. And I think it specifically is going to tie into the Spider-Verse, Morbius, and Blade. We will also, I believe, see it in Falcon Winter Soldier because Baron Zemo ends up using this book. I had mentioned that in the episode yesterday. If you haven't seen that episode, you need to go check that one out as well because I go deep into theories and predictions for almost a half hour. So check out that video. I will link it somewhere, either an end card or in the description, so you can easily find it. So another thing I wanted to touch upon that I didn't get to yesterday was at the beginning of this episode, this previous episode of WandaVision, episode 7, Hayward's in their new location, their temporary base, and they're looking at the Hex, and he says, make sure the team is ready. We're launching today. What is it that they're launching? What is it that SWORD has that they think can get through this Hex? And what I think it is, my prediction, a lot of people felt that when Monica was saying she was going to go meet her engineer, that the person she was going to go meet was Reed Richards. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but I don't believe that that's who it was. Again, when they went there, they never say that, Monica and Wu, that's the engineer she was talking to. They just go and meet some people. I believe, and what I think it is that the engineer she was talking about wasn't Richards, but was actually Doom, Victor Von Doom. I believe that's who she was going to meet. And he didn't show up there to give her whatever it was, the rover or whatever, because he's with Hayward at the SWORD base. I believe he's working with SWORD, and he's been working with them to create either his Doom body or some kind of AI that they can kind of extract from Vision or put in Vision. I don't know. But I think he's working with SWORD. I think he's the one she was going to meet. He's with Hayward at the base. And he is what they're going to try launching into the Hex, so to speak. I think that they, in the 5 years that have happened, they've done work with Vision, with his vibranium body. It's not fully vibranium. He was actually binding with cells. We learned that in Age of Ultron. So I think that they found a way to create what's going to be Doom, so to speak, the villain. Because, Doom's already a person, Victor. But I believe that this is how they create the villain. They've created some kind of body for him or something that he'll get into, launch into the Hex, and in so doing, that will kind of merge with his body, the same way the vibranium cells merged with cells to create Vision. And that's how we're going to get Doom. And he's going to get some kind of abilities when he does that. So I think that's what Hayward was going to launch. I think that's the engineer that Monica was going to go see. And that's why in my prediction before, I said, I think that Doom is going to be a villain in one of the future Avenger team-up movies. And also going with that, when I mentioned that I would like to see Marvel take a page from Scream and do a movie where there's two villains, two big baddies. I had originally said, Mephisto and Dormammu as the big finale that, the heroes have to face off against. But if you look at the comics, those supervillain team ups, which were from, I believe it was the mid to late 70s, I believe it was. A lot of those supervillain team ups were with Doom. So Doom kind of teams up with people before. I think we could see him teaming up with someone, and Marvel could be doing a movie where there are two villains, one being Doom, and who knows who the other one will be. But yeah, just a few more predictions. Again, I think we're going to get a lot more answers in these next 2 weeks. Well, obviously, we'll get answers in the next 2 weeks. These are the last two episodes. But I don't know if we'll get a lot of answers tomorrow. In tomorrow's episode. But I think that episode is going to focus more on Agatha with Wanda and kind of explaining her history and what's going on and why she's doing what she's doing. Because I still believe that she's being manipulated. And I think that's what this episode's going to be. I think we're going to see whatever Hayward's going to launch into the Hex, showing his character. We're going to see Vision going back to his house, looking for the boys, looking for Wanda, and then trying to track her down at Agnes's house. And I think we're just going to see really Agnes and Wanda giving Agnes's backstory. I think that's what tomorrow's episode is going to be. And I think the finale will be a much longer episode. We'll probably be looking at about an hour. And I think we're going to get a lot in that. So 2 weeks from now, that's really when it's going to be, on the 5th, when Coming to America comes out on Amazon. I think that's when we're going to get a huge finale for WandaVision, and it's going to set things up again for Falcon Winter Soldier, maybe even a little bit with Loki, and for the future movies of the MCU. But those are my thoughts and predictions for WandaVision. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, make sure you check out the Instagram, Movie Time with Chris. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Movie Time with C1. Go to my blog and check that out, www.movietimewithchris.com. You guys can follow me on Twitch, Movie Time with Chris. Again, I do a lot of just mobile gaming right now, but in the future, I don't know if I'll be able to do it in my original timeline, but in the future, I am going to be doing some watch parties with Amazon Prime. So make sure you follow me on Twitch to be a part of those. As usual, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell. And of course, if there's ever a topic you want to hear about or a show you want me to review, email me, movietimewithchris@gmail.com. And until next time, stay safe and take care.